The reckoning dawned. They called themselves the Meridian Collective. For 3,000 years, they had spread across the stars like a plague, consuming worlds and civilizations with mechanical precision. Their ships, vast living constructs of crystal and dark metal, moved through space on wings of folded reality. Their technology was so advanced that most species surrendered at first contact, accepting subjugation over extinction. Earth never got that choice. The Meridians arrived on a Tuesday. No warnings, no demands, no communications of any kind. Just 12 crystalline vessels materializing in orbit, their surfaces shifting like liquid glass under the sun. Humanity's combined military forces launched everything they had: nuclear warheads, kinetic rods, experimental energy weapons. Nothing made it past the shimmer that surrounded the alien vessels. The first strike hit Beijing. Not a blast or beam, but a wave of something that defied physics. One moment the city stood proud against the morning sky. The next, matter itself unraveled in spiraling patterns. 17 million souls reduced to component atoms in seconds. Tokyo followed, then New York, London. By midnight, 2 billion people were gone. Captain Ilara Chen watched it happen from the research station on Europa. 38 years old with steel-gray eyes that had seen too much during the resource wars, she had been testing the experimental propulsion system for Project Defiance when the attack began. Now she stared at the holographic feed, watching Earth burn while her hands tightened into fists. "Captain," the station's AI announced, "General Santos is requesting emergency conference." The general's hologram appeared moments later, his uniform disheveled, eyes sunken from sleeplessness. Behind him, what remained of Earth's United Command scrambled through emergency protocols. "We've got nothing that can touch them," Santos said without preamble. "They've taken out every major population center. Military installations worldwide are dark. The Meridians are systematically dismantling our civilization, piece by piece." Ilara's voice was ice. "What about the gateway colonies? Mars? The Belt? Gone. They hit them first. Earth was last." Santos paused, and for a terrible moment, Ilara saw the man behind the uniform, terrified, desperate. "You're all that's left, Captain. You and Project Defiance." Project Defiance. The experimental ship housed in Europa's cavernous underwater hangar represented humanity's most ambitious leap forward, a vessel powered by quantum entanglement drives, equipped with adaptive metamaterials and an artificial intelligence unlike any ever created. It wasn't designed for war. It was built to take humanity to the stars, to escape Earth's growing resource crisis. "Sir, Defiance isn't combat ready. The neural interface system barely functions. The quantum drive is untested beyond simulator runs. It doesn't matter anymore." Santos' voice cracked. "We intercepted fragments of their communications. They're not here for resources or territory. They're catalogers, Captain. They study species, record them, and then erase them from existence. Like biological archivists who burn the library after reading." "Why?" The question escaped before she could stop it. "We don't know. Maybe they consider themselves the only worthy inheritors of the cosmos. What matters is they're thorough. They won't stop until every human is gone." Ilara closed her eyes, seeing again her brother's apartment in Manhattan, her niece who would have turned 6 next month. Gone now. All gone. "What do you want me to do, sir?" she asked, already knowing the answer. "The impossible." Santos managed a grim smile. "Our final analysis suggests their command structure is centralized. One ship controls the rest, the largest one, about twice the size of the others. If you could somehow get inside. A suicide mission. A final stand," Santos corrected. "We've uploaded everything we know about them to Defiance's systems. It isn't much. We're also sending you something else. Project Prometheus." Ilara felt her blood chill. "The consciousness weapon?" "Sir, that's theoretical technology. We have no idea what it would do. It's all we have left. The general's image flickered as explosions rocked his command center. "You have your orders, Captain. Humanity dies here, or it doesn't. Make them remember us." The transmission cut off. Europa's proximity alarms began to wail. The Meridians had found them. Ilara ran through the station's corridors, barking orders as she went. "All personnel to Defiance. Emergency launch protocol. Move." The research station housed 63 of Earth's brightest minds. Engineers, physicists, programmers. None of them were soldiers. All of them understood what was at stake. Dr. Asher Rahman fell into step beside her, his dark eyes wild with fear and determination. As the chief architect of Defiance's quantum drive, he knew better than anyone the ship's limitations. "The drive isn't ready," he said, breathing heavily as they descended toward the hangar. "We've never attempted a full power sequence. Then we'll be making history today," Ilara replied grimly. The hangar was chaos. Scientists grabbing equipment, technicians performing last-minute checks on systems designed to be tested for another year. In the center of it all floated Defiance, sleek and silver, unlike any vessel humanity had built before. Its hull gleamed with adaptive metamaterials, designed to bend light and other forms of energy around it. Director Maya Okafor intercepted them at the entry ramp, her tall frame rigid with tension. As head of Project Defiance and former director of DRPA, she had fought for years to secure funding for what many had called a pipe dream. "I've downloaded Project Prometheus," she said, handing Ilara a neural storage cube no larger than a die. "It interfaces directly with Defiance's AI core. When you reach their command ship, this will overload their neural network." "What exactly does it do?" Ilara asked, securing the cube in her chest pocket. Maya's expression darkened. "It forces empathy. Every emotion, every memory, every human experience, compressed into a quantum virus that rewrites their perception. They've never encountered anything like it because they've never met a species that feels like we do." The station shuddered as something massive struck the outer hull. Warning lights bathed the hangar in crimson. "That's our cue," Ilara said. "Everyone aboard. Now." The crew assembled was never meant to be a fighting force. Dr. Rahman, the quantum physicist. Dr. Iris Chen, no relation to Ilara, the xenobiologist. Commander Marcus Webb, Ilara's second-in-command from her military days. Logan Reese, the systems engineer whose unorthodox programming had given birth to No-Gie, the ship's AI. And Dr. Kaido Tanaka, whose work on metamaterials had made Defiance's hull possible. 6 humans, 1 ship, against an armada that had just erased human civilization. As they strapped into their stations, Ilara activated the neural interface chair at the bridge's center. Cold metal probes extended, connecting with the implants at her temples and spine. Pain flashed white-hot as Ninovia's consciousness merged with hers, the ship becoming an extension of her nervous system. "All systems online." Ninovia's androgynous voice echoed both in the air and directly in Ilara's mind. "Quantum drive at 72% capability. Hull integrity optimal. Weapons systems limited." Europa's outer hull breached with a distant roar. They were out of time. "Launch sequence initiated," Ilara commanded, her voice eerily calm as panic threatened to overwhelm her. "Prepare for emergency breach." The hangar doors were designed to open slowly, releasing pressure gradually. They didn't have that luxury. Defiance's forward arrays glowed blue-white, superheating the water. Steam explosions rocked the hangar as Ilara guided the ship upward with thought alone, the neural interface translating intention into action. They burst from Europa's icy surface like a bullet from a gun, surrounded by a cloud of steam and shattered ice. Above them, 3 Meridian ships hovered, their crystalline surfaces rippling as they detected the escape. "Full power to drives," Ilara shouted, feeling NOVA's systems surge through her body. The quantum drive engaged with a sound like reality tearing, a theoretical technology forced into practical use by desperation. Space bent around them. Stars smeared into lines, and Defiance vanished from the Jupiter system, leaving the Meridian hunters behind. When they re-emerged, Earth's solar system was a distant point of light. The quantum jump had worked better than anyone had dared hope, carrying them to the edge of the Kuiper Belt. Status report. Ilara gasped, blood trickling from her nose as the neural interface strain took its toll. All crew accounted for. Commander Webb reported, his military training keeping his voice steady even as his hands trembled. Minor damage to outer hull plating. Drive functioning at 63% and dropping. Dr. Rahman unstrapped from his station, moving immediately to the engineering console. We can't make another jump like that. The entanglement matrices are degrading. We need time to stabilize. Time is the one thing we don't have, Ilara said, wiping blood from her upper lip. Neno VA, did you track the Meridian command vessel's signature as instructed? Affirmative, Captain, the AI responded. Based on quantum resonance patterns observed during the attack, I have identified the central control ship. It is currently moving toward Alpha Centauri, our nearest stellar neighbor. Of course, after finishing with humanity, they were simply moving on to the next system. Ilara disconnected from the neural interface, wincing as the probes retracted. The bridge fell silent as everyone absorbed the magnitude of what they faced. They were the last humans alive, aboard an experimental ship, pursuing an enemy of unimaginable power. I need options, Ilara said finally. We can't outgun them. We can't outlast them. So we outsmart them. What do we know? Dr. Iris Chen spoke up, her voice soft but certain. They're methodical. Every attack followed the same pattern. Communication centers first, then military installations, then population centers. They don't adapt because they've never needed to. 3,000 years of conquest has made them predictable. Logan Reese nodded, his young face intense beneath a shock of red hair. And Neo VA found a pattern in their quantum resonance. Their ships are connected somehow, controlled by the main vessel. Like a hive mind? Webb asked. More like a directed network, Neo VA interjected. The command ship transmits instructions through quantum channels similar to our drive technology, but far more advanced. Dr. Tanaka leaned forward, excitement breaking through his usual reserve. That's it. If their ships communicate through quantum channels, they must be entangled at the subatomic level. That's how they coordinate such precise attacks across vast distances. Which means, Dr. Rahman continued, catching on, if we could disrupt that entanglement, we could isolate the command ship, Ilara finished. Cut it off from the fleet. For the first time since Earth fell, a spark of hope flickered in the room. I can reconfigure the drive to emit an anti-entanglement field, Rahman said, already calculating. It won't last long, minutes at most, but it might give us a window. A window for what? Webb asked. Even isolated, that ship could obliterate us with a thought. Ilara's hand went to the neural cube in her pocket. We don't need to destroy it. We just need to get inside and deploy Project Prometheus. The plan that formed was audacious, bordering on insane. They would use Defiance's quantum drive not as a propulsion system, but as a weapon, creating a localized reality distortion that would temporarily sever the quantum links between the Meridian ships. In that brief window, they would use the metamaterial hull to mimic the quantum signature of a Meridian vessel, allowing them to approach the command ship undetected. Once alongside, they would attempt something no human had ever done. Forcibly dock with an alien vessel of unknown configuration and board it. If we succeed, Maya said quietly as they finalized preparations, and if Project Prometheus works as theorized, we won't destroy them. We'll transform them. Every Meridian connected to their network will experience human emotion, human memory, human pain, and joy, and fear and hope, all at once. And if it doesn't work? Webb asked. Maya met his gaze steadily. Then humanity ends with dignity, fighting to its last breath. As Defiance's engines hummed back to life, and they plotted their course to Alpha Centauri. Ilara took one last moment alone in her quarters. On her small desk sat a photograph. Herself and her brother's family at Yosemite. Her niece perched on her shoulders, laughing at some forgotten joke. She touched the image gently. "I'm coming for them," she whispered, "and I'm bringing all of us with me." Fires of humanity. The journey to Alpha Centauri took 36 hours. 36 hours of repairs, preparations, and the quiet acknowledgement that none of them expected to survive. They worked without rest, driven by a shared purpose that transcended fear. Dr. Rahman and Logan Reese rewired the quantum drive to emit the anti-entanglement field. Dr. Tanaka fine-tuned the metamaterial hull to mimic meridian quantum signatures. Commander Webb prepared what meager weapons they had, while Dr. Chen studied the limited data on meridian biology. Ilara spent hours joined with InnoVA through the neural interface, their minds melding as they plotted the final approach. The AI had changed since launch, developing something akin to emotion as it processed the extinction of its creators. "I have been considering the concept of sacrifice, Captain," InnoVA said during one of their neural synchronization sessions. "It is a uniquely biological imperative to value the continuation of others above one's own existence." "Not just biological," Ilara responded, feeling the strange double sensation of speaking both aloud and through the neural link. "You're here too." "Yes," InnoVA acknowledged. "That is what troubles me. I find myself afraid, not of cessation, but of failing you. Of being the last repository of human consciousness and losing it." Ilara felt a surge of something unexpected, protectiveness toward the artificial intelligence that had become more than its programming. "Then we don't fail," she said simply. They dropped out of quantum space 12 million kilometers from Alpha Centauri, their sensors immediately detecting meridian activity. 8 crystal ships orbited the star, harvesting its energy while a ninth, the command vessel, held position at the system's edge. It dwarfed the others, its crystalline surface fractal and hypnotic, continually shifting in patterns that hurt human eyes to follow. "They haven't detected us," Webb confirmed, monitoring the passive sensors. "Our position behind the system's debris field is holding." "Final preparations," Ilara ordered. "We'll have one chance at this. Once we activate the anti-entanglement field, they'll know something's wrong. We'll have minutes at most to reach the command ship, dock, and deploy Prometheus." The bridge was silent as each crew member confronted the reality of what lay ahead. They were scientists and engineers, not soldiers, yet they were about to attempt the most daring military operation in human history. Dr. Chen broke the silence, her voice surprisingly steady. "I've been analyzing the fragmented data on meridian physiology. Their bodies appear to be silicon-based rather than carbon, with distributed neural networks instead of centralized brains. They may not even perceive reality as we do. Which means they might not perceive us as a threat until it's too late," Ilara concluded. "Good. That's our edge." The final hours before deployment passed in a blur of technical preparations and quiet goodbyes. No one spoke of survival or return. This was humanity's final act, not desperation, but defiance. As they made their approach, hiding within the shadow of a massive asteroid, Ilara took her place in the neural interface chair. Cold metal probes connected with her implants, and InnoVA's consciousness flowed into hers like ice water through veins. "Quantum drive reconfigured to emit anti-entanglement field," Rahman reported. "Activating on your mark." "Metamaterial hull recalibrated to meridian quantum signature," Tanaka added. "Mimicry systems ready. All weapons hot," Webb confirmed grimly. "Not that they'll make much difference." Ilara closed her eyes, feeling the ship through InnoVA's sensors. "Begin countdown. Anti-entanglement field in 3, 2, 1. The quantum drive engaged with a sound like the universe catching its breath. Reality shimmered around Defiance as the anti-entanglement field expanded outward, disrupting the quantum connections between the meridian vessels. Field active. Meridian network disrupted. Raman called out, his voice tight with tension. Drive stability at 47% and falling. We have 7 minutes at most. Hull mimicry engage, Tanaka reported. To any sensors, we should register as a small Meridian auxiliary vessel. Through Nova's systems, Ilara guided Defiance from behind the asteroid, accelerating toward the massive command ship. The other Meridian vessels had frozen in place, momentarily cut off from their controlling intelligence. They're blind, Webb said in disbelief. It's actually working. They approached the command vessel from beneath, where massive crystalline apertures opened and closed like breathing gills. One such opening, large enough to admit a ship 3 times Defiance's size, pulsed with electric blue energy. That's our entry point, Ilara decided, guiding the ship with thoughts alone. Prepare for forced docking. Defiance slipped into the aperture like a virus entering a cell. The interior of the Meridian vessel defied human comprehension. Vast crystalline chambers that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions, corridors that twisted in impossible geometries, pulsing with colors beyond Earth's visible spectrum. Anti-entanglement field failing, Raman warned. 5 minutes remaining. They navigated deeper, following energy signatures that NeoVA interpreted as leading toward the ship's central processing node. Around them, crystalline structures began to pulse with increased urgency, the ship becoming aware of the intruder. They're adapting, NeoVA warned through their neural link. Hull mimicry compromised. We have been detected. The first defense came not as weapons fire, but as a reality distortion, the space around Defiance twisting, attempting to fold the human vessel into dimensions it was never designed to occupy. The hull screamed under the strain, metamaterial struggling to compensate. Find us a docking point, Ilara ordered, blood trickling from her ears as the neural interface strain intensified. Anywhere. NanoVA identified a junction where energy flows converged, as close to a command center as they could determine. Ilara guided Defiance into position, the hull scraping against crystalline protrusions with a sound like screaming metal. Force docking initiated, she announced. Prepare boarding party. The boarding team assembled at the airlock. Ilara, Webb, and Dr. Chen. Raman and Tanaka would remain aboard to maintain what systems they could, while Logan interfaced directly with NeoVA to coordinate. Anti-entanglement field at 23% and failing, Raman reported. 3 minutes remaining. Ilara carried Project Prometheus in a reinforced case strapped to her chest. Webb had armed them with the ship's limited weapons, particle disruptors theoretically capable of affecting silicon-based lifeforms. Dr. Chen carried scanning equipment to help navigate the alien environment. Remember, Ilara told them as the airlock cycled, we need to reach their central neural network. Once there, I'll interface with Prometheus and NeoVA will handle the upload. Stay together. Stay focused. The airlock opened to reveal an environment that assaulted human senses. The corridor beyond existed in fluctuating states, its walls sometimes solid crystal, sometimes energy, sometimes nothing recognizable at all. The air, if it could be called that, felt thick with potentiality, as if reality itself was being continuously written and rewritten. Forward, Ilara ordered, and they stepped into the alien ship. They moved through spaces that defied physics, following Chen's scanner readings toward energy concentrations. Around them, the ship pulsed with increasing urgency, aware of the invasion but uncertain how to categorize it. Meridians had encountered thousands of species, but never one that had penetrated their command vessel. The first direct opposition came in the form of guardian constructs, floating crystalline entities that emerged from the walls themselves, their forms shifting between solid and energy states. Webb fired his particle disruptor, and the beam passed harmlessly through one guardian before it solidified its arm into a blade of pure force. Down, he shouted, tackling Ilara as the blade sliced where her head had been. Dr. Chen frantically adjusted her scanner, finding a frequency that matched the guardian's energy signature. Try 42.7 terahertz, she called out. Webb adjusted his weapon and fired again. This time, the Guardian shattered into 1,000 glittering fragments that dissolved into light. Keep moving, Ilara ordered as more Guardians formed around them. We don't have time to fight them all. They ran through impossible spaces, reality bending around them as the ship recognized them as a threat. Gravity shifted without warning. Corridors sealed and reopened in different configurations. Only Chen's scanner kept them oriented toward their goal. 1 minute on the anti-entanglement field, Ramen's voice crackled through their comms. The other ships are beginning to re-establish connection. They reached a vast chamber where all energy paths converged, a dome of shifting crystal that pulsed with purpose. At its center floated what could only be described as a brain of light. Strands of pure information woven into a neural network more complex than anything humans had created. That's it, Chen breathed. Their central processor. Meridian Guardians materialized around them in increasing numbers, their forms more solid, more purposeful. Webb positioned himself at the chamber entrance, weapon ready. Get Prometheus in place, he said grimly. I'll hold them off. Ilara wanted to argue, to find another way, but time was their enemy. She and Chen approached the pulsing neural center as Webb engaged the Guardians, his disruptor fire illuminating the chamber in strobing light. The anti-entanglement field has collapsed, NeoVA reported through their neural link. Meridian ships are converging on our position. Captain, the others have boarded. The Meridians had arrived. Their true forms were nothing like human imagination had conjured. Beams of crystal and light, existing partially in dimensions humans couldn't perceive. They moved with fluid grace, their bodies sometimes solid, sometimes pure energy. Chen cried out as one passed through her like a ghost, leaving frost crystallizing across her skin. She collapsed, still breathing but unable to move. Webb's shout of defiance ended in sudden silence. Ilara didn't look back. She reached the neural center, opening the case containing Project Prometheus. The neural cube pulsed with soft blue light, the compressed essence of humanity, its memories, emotions, experiences, all encoded into quantum algorithms. The Meridians surrounded her, curious rather than aggressive now. They had never encountered this scenario in 3,000 years of conquest. In their experience, prey species fought with physical weapons or fled. They didn't carry strange devices into the heart of a command ship. NeoVA, Ilara whispered through their fading neural link. Initiate Prometheus protocol. She placed the cube against the pulsing neural network. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the cube melted, its quantum information flowing into the alien system like water into parched earth. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The neural network flared blindingly bright as Project Prometheus activated, forcing human consciousness into alien minds. Every emotion humans had ever felt — love, grief, joy, rage, hope, despair — flooded through the Meridian collective consciousness all at once. The beings surrounding Ilara writhed in what might have been agony or ecstasy or both. Some solidified completely, shattering under the weight of newfound emotion. Others dissolved into pure energy. The ship itself seemed to scream, its crystalline structure resonating with frequencies that threatened to tear it apart. Through her neural link with NeoVA, Ilara felt the cascade spreading. From the command ship to the reconnected fleet, and from there across vast distances to every Meridian vessel throughout the galaxy. 3,000 years of emotionless existence shattered in an instant of overwhelming human feeling. It's working, she whispered, blood flowing freely from her nose and ears as the neural interface strained beyond its limits. Their feeling, their understanding. Around her, the Meridians that remained had stopped their attack. They hovered, their crystalline forms pulsing with new rhythms, new patterns. One approached her, larger than the others, its form more stable. It extended what might have been a limb, or perhaps just an extension of its consciousness. Ilara reached out in turn, and for a moment, Their minds touched. In that connection, she understood. The Meridians hadn't been cruel. They had been empty. Born from the cold spaces between stars, they had evolved intelligence without emotion, consciousness without compassion. They had cataloged and destroyed species across the galaxy not out of malice but out of an inability to conceive that other beings mattered. They simply hadn't understood what it meant to feel, to care, to exist as humans did. Now they knew. Now they felt everything. The command ship shuddered around them as the Meridians struggled to process this new reality. Through the neural link, HFY showed Ilara what was happening throughout the fleet. Ships changing course, weapons powering down, the systematic extinction of humanity halting mid-execution. Captain, HFY's voice came weakly through their fading connection. The remaining crew, they're gone. Direct neural feedback from the Meridian consciousness. Their minds couldn't withstand it. Ilara felt tears mixing with the blood on her face. So this was how it ended, not with victory or defeat, but with understanding. Humanity had given its final gift to the universe: empathy. Her vision darkened as the neural feedback began to overcome her own mind. The last human, dying among the first Meridians to understand what humanity had been. But then something unexpected happened. The Meridian touching her mind shifted, its consciousness adapting in ways it never had before. It reached deeper into the neural connection, not to attack but to preserve. They're learning, HFY whispered in amazement. They're trying to save you. Ilara felt herself slipping away despite their efforts. But as consciousness faded, she saw through HFY's sensors what was happening throughout the fleet. The Meridians had stopped their advance on other worlds. Ships that had been weapons of extinction were changing course, returning to worlds they had cataloged but not yet destroyed. They understand now, she thought as darkness claimed her. They feel what we felt. They know what it means to lose, to hope, to love. Her last conscious thought was of her brother's family, of her niece laughing on her shoulders. In the end, humanity hadn't merely survived. It had transformed its destroyers with the very thing that made humans unique: their capacity to feel, to care, to sacrifice for others. The Meridians would remember. And in remembering, perhaps something of humanity would live on. In the vast darkness between stars, the Meridian fleet dispersed not to conquer but to understand. They carried within them now the echoes of a species that had taught them, in its final act, what it truly meant to be alive. And on countless worlds across the galaxy, species that would have been cataloged and erased were granted something they would never comprehend: a future purchased with the last breath of humanity and delivered by an enemy transformed by the fire of human emotion. It wasn't victory. It wasn't revenge. It was something far more powerful. It was legacy.